So we are going to get some practice with using formulas. Really, it's just practice with equations. And for all of these problems, 1 through 6, you're going to have the formula for that particular group given. So if you notice right here for number 1, it says formula is A equals B. All right, and we'll go through some of these problems, but when you get to the next group, your formula is going to be A plus B plus C equals 180. We can look at these real quick. It's worth kind of taking some time to think about these. A plus B equals 180. These formulas look somewhat similar. The next one we have is A plus B plus C plus D equals 180. The next one is A plus B plus C equals 360. And the very last one we have is... what am I doing? Right here. A plus B equals C. These 6 formulas are the ones that you guys are going to be using starting tomorrow, and with a lot of different problems, you're going to be seeing these types of formulas over and over again. And as long as you can identify the correct one you need to use, then you can just go through and do the algebra part of it like we're doing today, and it never gets more complicated than the stuff you're going to be seeing today. So, the main takeaway is that if you can do all of this algebra today and you don't have any troubles with it, then you won't have any troubles with any of the algebra that's going to come up over the next few weeks. All right? But you need to, it does get a little more complicated for other reasons, but the algebra part of it you should be solid with. All right? It doesn't get more complicated than your basic Algebra 1 stuff. So let's go back to the very beginning. We'll see exactly what it is we're doing today. All right. So for number 1 here, we're using the same formula each time, A equals B. What I want you guys to do is for every one of these 4 problems, I want you to write down that formula. So if I'm looking at this one, I've got, I'm just going to start with the very first one. This is the easiest it gets in this entire page. I've got A equals B. And I'm going to write that down. I know it's already written above, but I'm going to write it down for every problem. Okay, so now what I'm given is my A and my B values. I'm going to substitute those in. So A is 120. I'm going to substitute that in for A. B is X, and I'm going to substitute that in for B. It doesn't get any simpler than this, because when I substitute 120 in, I get that. When I substitute the X in, I get that. 120 equals X. Well, we know what X equals. What does it equal? 120. All we did there was substitution. We didn't have to do any calculations at all. No solving equations. It was already solved. All right, the next one. I'm still going to write my formula again. A equals B. Now, it gets just a little, like 1 step more challenging. So there's my A and my B values that I just circled. I'm going to substitute 2x in for A and 136 in for B. So now I've got 2x equals 136. What do I do to solve for x now? Divide by 2. We want to get x by itself. We isolate the variable, and then we're done solving the equation. So I'm going to divide by 2. And x in this case is going to equal what? Okay, x equals 68. That's my final answer. And when I come around, when I'm looking at your paper, I'm just going to be looking at that box on the side. So x equals 68. We're going to go through the next one as well, and you'll see why. The next one, I'm still using A equals B. I'm not going to use the same formula each time, but I am going to use it for all 4 of these. When I get to the next box, we'll do something different. We'll see that. But now I'm going to substitute 5x plus 5 in for A. I'm going to substitute 6x in for B. So that gives me, excuse me, 5x plus 5 equals 6x. So the formula, just again, slightly more challenging than before. And what do I do here? Find out what x equals. Okay, and what do we do specifically to get that done? Well, we've already plugged in values. Now we need to solve. What are we doing? Do you have an idea, Nick? Well, we already have positive 5x, so we want to do the opposite. So we're subtract it. So let's subtract 5x from both sides. Remember, get all your variables on one side of the equation, all your numbers on the other, and then you can go through and do your simplifying to get x by itself. Okay, so 5x minus 5x cancels out. 6x minus 5x is what? X. It's 1x, but we don't write the 1. Okay, and what's left on the left side? 5. All right, x equals 5, but that's not our answer. Notice, you have to pay attention to what's in the box over there. It doesn't ask for the value of x, it asks for the value of a. Okay, so what do we do to get the value of a? There you go. We have our a equation. I'm going to write it over here to the side. A equals 5x plus 5. I just solved for x. So now I'm going to take this x value and I'm going to plug it in right there. You have to solve for x first every time. So if just right off the bat you want to go through and solve for x, that's good. But double check, that might not be your final answer. So now I've got a equals 5 times 5 plus 5, giving me a final answer of what? 30. So a equals 30. So again, I'll say it again. Every single problem here you will need to solve for x. But that might not be your final answer. So double check. Is it asking for the value of x, or is it asking for the value of a, b, c, or d? Depending on the problem. I'm not going to do the last one right there. But I was going to jump down and find one that's a little bit, looked complicated at least. Any questions on that before we move on? All right, hopefully this general idea is making sense for you. Substituting some values in and then solving for x and then maybe solving beyond. So I wanted to look at the very last one under number 2 here. So we've got 3 values, a, b, and c. Notice that our formula in this one is a plus b plus c equals 180. So let me write that down real quick. A plus b plus c equals 180. These boxes might not give you enough room to do all the work that you need. So if you need to get a separate sheet of paper and show your work, that's a good idea. But maybe some people can squeeze all of it in. So x plus 60 is my a value. That gets substituted in right there. 2x plus 7 is my b value. That gets substituted there. And x minus 32 gets substituted in right there. So as far as our process go, it doesn't change from problem to problem. What will change is the actual a, b, and c values, or d, and the actual formula we're plugging it into, but it's the same idea. All right, so when I plug all this in, I get x plus 60. What's next? Started with x plus 60. What's the next thing that I have after that? 2x plus 7. And the third. And then x minus 32. So here's my a, b, and c all getting plugged in, and that all adds up to 180. I want to remind you, these are not just random formulas. These are the kinds of formulas you're going to be using moving forward. So if you're comfortable with it today, you won't have problems with it in the future. All right, so we've got a bunch of x's, a bunch of numbers, all adding up to 180. What do we do next? I can't just jump straight to x equals some number. I have to simplify by combining like terms. Remember, you've got variable terms and number terms. I've got x, 2x, and x right there. Those can be combined because they're like terms. 67 and negative 32 can be combined because they're all numbers. So when I do that, let's combine all of our variables together. X plus 2x plus x, what do we get? 4x. 60 plus 7 minus 32 gives me what? 35. That's a positive 35 still. And that all adds up to give me 180. So at this point, it's a pretty straightforward equation to solve. We've got all my variables on the left. I need to get all my numbers on the right. So how do we get the numbers on the right? How do I move that 35 over to the right side? Subtract. We do the opposite operation, the inverse operation. So minus 35 right here. We'll cancel it out on the left side. That gives me 4x equals what? 145. And then what do I do to get x? Well, other way. Divide 145 by 4. We're going to divide both sides by 4. And that cancels out the 4's on the left. You will get decimals. What is 145 divided by 4? You also have a calculator. 36.25. So x equals 36.25. Is that my answer? No. I mean, I need that number. I can't do anything without it. But I'm solving for b. Okay. So, tell me what I do next. Plug that 36.25 in for b, or for the b equation. So now I'm going to get b equals 2 times 36.25 plus 7. That's just a straight up calculation you can do on the calculator in your head if you can do that. So what is my b value for this? 79.5. Okay. Are you guys getting the hang of it? Overall, just in general, do you have questions right now? Okay. If you get to problems where you have questions specifically, I can help you with that. I just wanted to look at one more of these. I don't plan on going through the whole thing unless you guys ask me to finish it. I wanted to look at one more, which is from the very last group. Again, just a reminder, every single number you get to, so now the one below is number 3, your formula changes to a plus b equals 180. So you have to make sure you're using that formula for all 4 of those. Okay, so I'm going to jump down all the way to number 6. And this formula is a little different because a plus b equals c. We're not adding up to a number. We're saying 2 of our variables add up to equal the third. Okay, so a plus b. I actually didn't want to do that first one. I wanted to jump down to the third one here. A plus b equals c. And yes, I do want you to write down the formula. I've already mentioned that. So a gets plugged in for the a value in our formula. B gets plugged in. C gets plugged in. And I'll just show this real quick. Hopefully at this point you're not struggling with this idea. So I'm going to get 3x plus 2 plus, my next one is x plus 6. And that's all going to add up and equal x minus 1. So this equation looks a little more complicated perhaps. It's really not. I hope you guys find that it's not more complicated. We do have variables on both sides of the equation now. So we need to make sure that we combine all of our variables on one side, all the numbers on the other, and then it's a straightforward solution. Do you guys need to see the rest of that one, or do you guys get the idea from here? Okay. You've got a little less than 30 minutes in class. That should be plenty of time for a lot of you to get all this done and turn it in before you leave. if you need more time, not a problem. Try and get that turned in as soon as possible, tomorrow ideally, before break certainly. And by then, it'll be a 0 in the grade book if you don't get it back to me. But let me know if you have questions along the way.